Steel doesn't just cut, it screams, biting through flesh, through armor, through bone, and as men fall, shields crash down on bodies while the air thickens with the stench of blood and dust. They call it Roman glory, but in the heart of the chaos it feels like hell itself, a gladius punching through a ribcage, blood pouring into the dirt, the air heavy with sweat, iron, and death, and when the shouting fades, the silence is somehow worse. What happens to the men who survive? Not the generals crowned with laurels or the heroes carved in marble, but the nameless soldier who comes home with one arm, a face unrecognizable, or wounds that cannot be seen. Rome celebrated its victories with parades, feasts, and sacrifices, but the soldiers who made those victories possible were often forgotten the moment they left the battlefield, and this is their story. The wounded warriors of ancient Rome, the ones who made it home but never truly returned. Roman warfare was personal, brutal, and up close, with no safe distance, no modern artillery to shield you from the blood, every kill made while staring into the eyes of the dying. The gladius, short and deadly, perfect for stabbing through armor into vital organs, the pilum, a heavy javelin that pierced shields and bent on impact, leaving jagged wounds impossible to remove cleanly, every strike designed not just to kill but to maim. Against Celts or Germanic warriors, the danger was worse, their weapons crude but devastating, axes that took arms in a single blow, maces that shattered skulls, long swords that ripped open ragged wounds spilling a man's life onto the ground. Roman medical writers like Aulus Cornelius Celsus described wounds beyond human tolerance. Entrails spilling from the abdomen, faces smashed beyond recognition, teeth torn out, bones splintered in multiple places, and many who survived the fight died days later from fever, infection, or silent necrosis. If you were lucky, you were dragged from the field; if not, you stayed where you fell, surrounded by mud, excrement, and the blood of men and animals, with no time to clean a wound, no knowledge of bacteria. Every cut a death sentence. Those who did survive met the Medici. Legionary doctors, emergency surgeons whose task was to keep a man alive just long enough to fight again, working in valetudinaria, the military hospitals with rooms for wounds, fevers, and recovery, cleaning injuries with vinegar and wine, using mandrake root or willow bark to dull pain. But when wounds were too severe, there were no miracles, only fire and iron, cauterization with red-hot bars to stop bleeding, amputations with bronze saws when rot set in, hooks and forceps to pull out embedded weapons, the only anesthesia being wine or, if lucky, a sedative plant, screams echoing across the camp, the mortality rate high, and those who lived often carrying scars that never healed. But not all wounds bled. Some soldiers came home with no visible injuries but something inside them broken, waking in the night screaming, avoiding crowds, quick to anger, unable to rest, afraid of shadows. Today we call it PTSD, but Rome had no name for it, no diagnosis, no compassion, for a good man was expected to endure everything with dignity, and to feel too much was suspicious. Tacitus wrote of veterans from the Germanic wars who avoided all human contact, unable to speak of their campaigns as if memory itself could wound them. Rome knew how to forge soldiers, crush enemies, and build empires, but it did not know how, or perhaps did not want, to take back those who came home broken. If you served 20 to 25 years, you might earn the missio honesta, an honorable discharge with land, a pension, and citizenship if you weren't already Roman, some veterans living out their days as farmers, merchants, or leaders. But most severely wounded soldiers didn't last that long, instead released early under the missio caesaria for medical reasons, which meant returning home mutilated, without land or salary, relying on family or luck, and luck was rare. Rome glorified strength, not weakness. Monuments were built for victories and generals, never for broken men, though some found new roles as clerks, instructors, or guards, roles that vanished in times of crisis, their fate dependent on a commander's mercy, and mercy was not a Roman virtue. The worst fate was the missio ignominiosa, dismissal in disgrace for cowardice or dishonor, stripping a man of rights, recognition, and even his name from the records, a social death worse than poverty. Those still able to fight sometimes became mercenaries for senators or governors, others joined gladiator schools, trading survival for the chance of glory or a quick death in the arena. Figures like Spiculus perhaps starting as soldiers, the arena offering rewards but also humiliation, an exchange of honor for bread. Others had no work, no shelter, no hope, becoming beggars in the streets of Rome, Alexandria, and Carthage. Men who once marched with the mightiest legions now reduced to rags and empty eyes. Augustus tried to solve this with the aerarium militare, a military pension fund, which under strong rulers worked, but under corrupt ones was drained for personal luxuries, and in crises, the first to be abandoned were those who could no longer fight. Many veterans died waiting for pensions that never came, others saved by rare acts of kindness, most vanishing into the crowd, their service forgotten. Rome conquered 3 continents, toppled kingdoms, built cities, and left monuments that still stand, but behind every victory were thousands of broken men bleeding for an empire that discarded them once they ceased to be useful. And this is not a story about generals or glory, it's about the debt Rome never paid, for surviving the battle was only the beginning, and the real war began afterward, against abandonment, chronic pain, and for many, against oblivion. If this story moved you, subscribe so more voices from the past can be heard, and tell me in the comments, did Rome owe more to its soldiers? And as always, may Mars guide you in battle.